Well, let me do a little news update. I'm up at the mission right now. I'm doing a little talk. Here comes a friend of mine. Hello, Raven. I'm doing a little update. You want to say hi?
Guten Tag.
Okay, that's Raven. I introduced Raven yesterday to Levi. One of the homeless guys. I try to be nice to one of them, and his name's Mark. He's sitting back there. Mark drank. He asked me sometimes for a sip of my Diet Coke. Okay, Mark. So he almost drank the whole thing. I said, I can't give you no more, Mark. And then he asked for more. He's banned from being out here because he's got problems. But for about 2 hours, and even Big Charlie had to walk away. I haven't done a news update in a while. There's been a lot of events. Right now, just now, top news. There was a man that rammed his truck into the Fox News building in Dallas. The bomb squad is there. He was putting papers and boxes around the building, and he was yelling, "High Treason." Now, the media, the mainstream media, have been waiting. They said it again the other day. They said, would Trump's branding of much of what we refer to as fake news, and I'll talk about some of those, Carl Bernstein, Lanny Davis, the media's been saying they've been waiting for a mainstream reporter or a mainstream news outlet to be rammed like that, because they've been saying Trump's talking about fake news is going to cause somebody to attack, a mainstream media outlet. Here's Ted. Ted got the dollar earlier today. But notice what happened. Hi Ted. I'm doing a video. What you possibly had in the Dallas attack at the Fox News building possibly was a man inspired by the mainstream media constant harping about Trump committing treason. Mr. Brennan said that, who works for CNN. And this man could have been inspired by the mainstream media to do this act. CNN has not even reported this. Fox News obviously reported it. Now it's early, we don't know for sure, but it's possible that what the media has accomplished, and believe me, they've been waiting for a reporter or somebody to get killed in the mainstream media. They've been saying that. Will Trump be responsible if he leads? And all types of things. But yet, if this was an inspired thing by someone who maybe holds liberal views to attack what he perceives as a more conservative news outlet, they won't even report that. The last few weeks, you had a man by the name of the judge, I forget what his name is. He was deeply involved in the whole Mueller investigation. His wife, this is one of the guys working in the investigation, I forget the name, famous name. But he went before Congress last week because they're now looking into a lot of illegal stuff that happened in the investigation itself, the whole Mueller investigation. And this particular man works for the Justice Department. His wife worked for the political firm that got a lot of dirt on Trump, called the Russian dossier. His wife actually worked for Fusion GPS. And this man, who was part of the investigation, looking at everything, also had back channels where this information that they were collecting against Trump during the campaign, this was Democratic information, Russian dossier, and he was handing that information and still a back channel for the man by the name of Michael Steele, who was collecting this information. Now they finally spoke to him the other day, and the real breaking story out of that would have meant he revealed that he was giving this information freely to people in the FBI, CIA, and Justice Department. They were still working with him to take any information that was politically generated by the Democratic Party to use to go after Mr. Trump. That is a high scandal. But what did the media report? In these hearings that this person had, Michael Steele also told him at one point, like the hearsay, the Russians have Trump over the barrel. That was the top report out of the CNN and mainstream news. Though the top report should have been, this is a scandalous thing, that this man had connections, and these were illegal because he was using political information from a man by the name of Michael Steele, who the FBI supposedly already cut ties. It would be like Trump and his political people working behind the scenes to get an opponent, and to be doing all of these things without going through proper channels. That's the real scandal. The media did not focus on that at all. Lanny Davis. Lanny Davis is a Democratic person. I don't dislike Lanny Davis, political guy for many years, Clinton person. He was the lawyer who represented Michael Cohen, who was Trump's lawyer, that they raided Cohen's offices. Now finally, Lanny Davis represented Trump's lawyer, who now pled guilty to various things. He's going to do 5 years in prison. But Lanny Davis, this is another scandal. He was, quote, a secret source for CNN, for mainstream media, and CNN reported as fact that Michael Cohen is going to reveal to Robert Mueller that Trump had knowledge of the, quote, infamous Trump Tower meeting, where Don Jr., Trump's son, met with some of Russian people in Trump Tower. And it's really not what they blew it up to be. But it would be a very huge thing only if Trump had knowledge of it ahead of time. That's still not a crime, but he publicly said, I didn't have knowledge of it. Now, CNN broke the story with Cole Bernstein. Now, you got the Bob Woodward book out. I don't want to do it all. Cole Bernstein is famous as the reporter for the Watergate scandal. And they reported as fact Trump had knowledge of the Trump Tower meeting. But then they said they had a secret source who told them that. The secret source was Lanny Davis, who represents Michael Cohen, who was the insider source. Now look at the false news. This is why we say fake news. Lanny Davis also leaked that to media outlets, meaning he was the source that leaked it to them, then leaked it to other media outlets. And the media, CNN, said we had multiple sources. It was all from the one man, Lanny Davis. Now, Lanny Davis has come out and corrected the record and said that's not true. He really does not know if Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer, who pled guilty to in the Robert Mueller thing, Lanny Davis came out and publicly said, I have to correct the record. I really don't know if Michael Cohen knows if Trump knew ahead of time. Now, most other media, even liberal media, criticize CNN because they still, to this day, stand by that story. That was a fabricated thing where sources were one person. And then they knew the secret source, the one person, spilled the beans to a bunch of others and said, oh, these are all of our sources. I could go on. The coverage of the McCain, I love John McCain. I was a big fan of John McCain, and sadly he passed away last week. And of course, John McCain and Trump didn't get along, right? But then they kind of ran that as a Trump bashing thing for a few days. Bob Woodward came out with the book, and excerpts are being released from the book. And it's basically saying that Trump is so... They're looking not only for impeachment on Mr. Trump, but criminal charges that after he's impeached, they get him out, then they're going to put him in. That's what they're looking for. Now, I would ask this of the media. Because of this attack on a Fox News building out of Texas where I reside, and because the man was yelling high treason, it's very probable that that man was inspired by the non-stop bias of the mainstream news, who do not even admit in the Carl Bernstein story when they are wrong, and they do not correct the record. And notice how they play it. They'll play it in a way that even if they can, they would say, this was inspired by Trump. Even though it was not, more than likely. Because it seems like the same type of thing where Republican lawmakers were shot and targeted at a baseball game during a baseball game a year and a half ago or so. And the man who went out there with his weapon and targeted those Republicans, he was a person who was the anti-Trump, we must stop these Republicans. And the mainstream media and this bias that you see daily obviously inspired that man to do that. That was not a Republican or conservative that was targeting Democrats. But that was a man who shot me. He shot Republican Representative Steve Scalise, I believe was his name, injured him severely. And instead of the media then saying, see, they kind of played it as this had nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with the media's nonstop referring to Mr. Trump as treasonous and all these things. They do not take responsibility for what they have inspired at times. They do not take responsibility for that. I know a lot of people don't follow a lot of this. Some of the books that have been written by conservatives or just by people, whether it's an Alan Dershowitz or a Mark Penn, there were some Democrats, like Mark Penn, who's a Democratic person who worked for Hillary Clinton, but he's come out the last few months and said this is scandalous. He's also recognized that a lot that's going on is scandalous. And then I saw some news things that said, why is Mark Penn doing this? Meaning, he's got something behind the scenes. Anybody, Alan Dershowitz, very liberal Democratic lawyer, a scholarly man, but he's looked at this thing and said the same thing. And then they targeted Mr. Dershowitz as well. So the media is very irresponsible in the way they're doing these things. There was one more I can't even remember. But the reason I said, let me do this quick update was, it's real possible that the attack today on Fox News building in Dallas, it's very possible that that was not, quote, a Trump-inspired attack. But when Mr. Trump, I Google the news all day, every day. Whenever I Google Fox News, the top things that come up are not Fox News. Top things that come up are liberal or mainstream media criticisms of Fox News. Meaning the Google search thing is obviously rigged. It's not the algorithms. And I get tired of it because I Google Fox News, I Google CNN, Google them all. The only one they do that to is Fox News. First thing that comes up is other stories by anti-Fox News outlets that are critical of Fox News. And then you got to scroll all the way down. Now, anybody that Googles like that knows for the past 5 years, they do that. Anybody that Googles knows that. Then finally, Mr. Trump and others kind of got word of it and said, we understand that the Google search rankings and the media, and even in the Color Times, they mocked Trump. Here's art, another friend of mine. They mocked Trump for saying the Google search engine is skewed. Anybody with any knowledge of anything. I'm doing a quick update, Art.
John, did I make it on time for a cigarette?
I got to get it off the bike. You want to say hi real quick? I'll just turn it to you. That's
How you
Art.
doing?
Art's a good friend of mine. Yes, I'll get one in a minute, Art.
Sure.
It's like a news update. That's Art. I've known Art for a long time. So basically, the Google search engine is rigged. I just know that before it was ever reported. I just explained why. It's so obvious. And the media, when Trump talked about it, the Color Times had a cartoon mocking Trump as a conspiratorial guy, believing that the Google search engine is rigged. It is rigged. So not only does the media not report true things to you, but when there are actually true things, they make fun of those true things and they give you a false narrative. So how would you honestly report any of that? You just report the truth. You just report the truth. If you have a critique of, we have the Kavanaugh hearings now for the Supreme Court. Okay, Mr. Kavanaugh has been a judge for many, many years. He's the nominee for the Supreme Court. You have multitudes of legal decisions, opinions that this man has made throughout his life. A very long record. If you want to know how Mr. Kavanaugh will rule on the court, that's what you have. What the Democrats have said, and it was a sham what took place yesterday, which was the first day of the Supreme Court hearings, trying to disrupt everything. But what the Democrats have said, along with Mr. Schumer, was that the Republicans are withholding all of the documents. Now you'll see in the media, oh, they're withholding them. What the media does not tell you is they have handed over more documents about the record of Mr. Kavanaugh than not only the last previous nominee, not only the nominee before him, but the one before him. They have handed over more records to the committees, as Congress who's now going to do these hearings, than all 6 previous Supreme Court nominees combined. Meaning you got more records on this man, Mr. Kavanaugh, than the previous 6 nominees for the Supreme Court on various presidents combined. Yet the Democratic line is they have not turned over the records. What are they seeking? This man, Mr. Kavanaugh, before he was a judge, he worked as a clerk for George Bush, meaning like a secretary job. They want all the tweets, everything from that. All right, that's really a scam. It's a sham. But the media narrative is they're withholding important documents. So they're unable and incapable to just tell you the truth. If you want to have a true story about the Google things, anybody that's Googled all the news, like I do all the time, would tell you, yeah, you get tired of, if you Google CNN, of course you get nothing negative on the Google search. Nothing. CNN comes up, it's even on my phone as an automatic like app thing. Okay, so they work and they collude. And some of them will not correct the record. And they're giving you fake news. Indeed. Some of them are doing that. And then our media, even the Color Times, mocks Trump because he honestly said, we're going to make sure that Google is, and they are doing it. And then they did a cartoon like Trump's an idiot for questioning it. But it's true. This is why the majority, these books that have come out, Greg Jarrett on Fox and others, Janine Pirro, I'm not big fans of them. But they've written books kind of talking about the other side of all of this, the investigations, the things that have been taking place that were illegal, the connections that Mr. Mueller, the FISA warrants, which was a big thing. It was always a big question. These FISA warrants that Mr. Mueller got on Carter Page, on a citizen, supposed to meet a high standard. And we kept thinking, what courts did they go before like what judges to get the warrant. You got to go before a judge. It just came out this week in these meetings that they didn't go before any judge, meaning Mueller, the FBI, the secret intelligence agencies didn't even present these warrant applications before a judge. That's scandalous. Mr. Bernstein, Mr. Woodward, they want to talk about their past and exposing Watergate and all these things. And you're silent? You're even a party to this. So this is just a quick update. You've seen a few of my friends. Here's Big Charlie in the back. Like I said, I had to walk away for a while because one of the guys, after he drank the whole soda, can I have another sip? Can I? All right, so this is a news update. Big Charlie, you want to say hi real quick? I'm going to shut it off. I saw Big Charlie and his boy a little while ago. Little Charlie, pray for my friends. I did like a little news update. And it's
Good
Big
morning.
Charlie.
Hello.
I was
God
glad.
bless y'all. Pray for us here in the bluff, man. It'll be a big battle going on. Just pray that we do the right things at the right time. Keep spreading the love of Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ is the only way to heaven. He is the only way. There's no other way to get to God except through Jesus Christ. I'm just going to quote that and say that. Hang tough, be tough, and we're going to win this thing. We already know. Amen.
I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. So, thank you, Charlie. That's the news update. Plus, you saw some friends. God bless everybody.